Just a point here. One survey that was held in Quebec compared to the U.S. Because in the U.S. what was a big factor of the BIM adoption was 2006, where our projects were asked to be done in BIM. What people in the industry tell us is that we're not really interested in getting into BIM because it's not compulsory. It represents a major investment for the company. Why would we invest when the benefits are not really for us, they're for the customer? Do you agree with this statement? What we often hear is the biggest work provider is the government of Quebec, and the government of Quebec does not put on their pants and take their responsibilities as a leader in the field. We'll never have projects that will really grow in magnitude. And we heard that CUSUM, there was a statement, that's it from what you said. BIM is required. So it'll take more than that, however, and a better organization and better involvement from the government, because as long as the government won't say, let's stop the lowest bidder, let's stop traditional structures, and let's propose more recent models, we won't arrive at any result. And we may be a little too socialist in the way we look at things, but what I've heard and read is that if the government imposes a 3D technology, then all those who are in 2D will be left out. That's not fair, it's not correct. So we're not going to bring in 3D. But in the meantime, the U.S. are doing the reverse. So we want 3D. You want to work with the government, you'll work in 3D. So it forces people, it draws from the top, whereas our regulations tend to draw us towards the bottom. So they're the greatest work provider in Quebec. And said, fine, if we pull all companies up from the top, it'll have a snowballing effect. But you did dive into it. Yes. Well, we mentioned earlier that the steel industry, the software, have been around for more than 10 years. So it was a logical solution internally because it offered a better performance. Patricia, for example, your company in NFOE, you're involved with BIM seriously. Well, yeah, we started doing research in 2008 after Mr. Alan Partridge's presentation. Many of you here know him. And before that, it's intriguing and something new. But with time, we realized that AutoCAD didn't really meet the needs of the offices. We would take what we drew by hand on paper and put it on a computer screen, and we drew things similarly, except that there was less control over what we were doing because there were juniors who would draw who didn't even know what they were drawing. And then later on, we would realize that within the drawing, they were completely disorganized. So if there's anybody here in this room who can say, like, AutoCAD brought them profits, I'd be impressed. BIM, on the other hand, why did we launch into it? As we saw profits diminish with CAD projects, as people would go around in circles. So we started cleaning all that up to say, what are we doing poorly? What can we improve? And then within that, we say, okay, what is BIM? How can it, what benefits can be derived? If you do the post-mortem of a project on CAD, you'll see most of your time in the first part of the project is in the coordination. You know, you move something over in the plan, you move the door over on the plan, you move it over elsewhere, you try it there, and you change the size of the door, you reorder, and there's no, and the person forgot to change it on the elevation. There's a problem on the workshop drawing, your customer is unhappy, and the circle continues. What we also saw was that there are fewer and fewer people who choose architecture because they know there's not much money to be made. So we needed to plan who's going to work on our projects in the future. There are fewer and fewer technologists in architecture. There's no draftspeople. Nobody wants that job. Everybody wants to be an architect, and every architect that comes in wants to be in charge of projects, project managers. So to keep these people involved, we have to find ways of realizing projects that they can build. And for young architects, we find they're a lot more excited by this kind of software. They're much more involved. They take responsibility for the things that they do within it, and in 3D they can see what they're doing. It's no longer a line that you're drawing and say, fine, you know, I'm going from X to Y. Now, you know, a line becomes a wall. It becomes a tree. I need gyprock on both sides. I need, you know, such type of paint, color. When you can put all that information onto a project, the workers are much more involved. Here, back to the profit side, are there profits for architects by getting involved in this file? Yes, because you will have smaller teams, as somebody already said. You still need to have people understand that you put a lot more effort early in the project because all the information needs to be there. Otherwise, you'll end up with something that's fairly generic and you'll have to go back many times to redo it. You need to change processes internally, a lot of them, in order to get there. It's a matter of getting organized before implementing and to be very rigorous in the implementation as you go along. So I probably gave too large of an answer. No, that's perfect. I think that's the purpose. And don't forget, don't be shy if you have questions. I'll keep asking questions until you come up with some.